I wanted to welcome everybody and ask you to join us. Mari and I are giving service this morning. I love the phrase, giving service. And I ask all of you to give service with us. This is part of our theme this morning is self-effort and renunciation, giving ourselves to God so that then we can receive. And I just ask you to join in every part of the service, the music, the chanting, the prayers, the festival, whether it's your first time here or your 500th time here. Give yourself into it. Give the service to yourself, give it to one another, give it to God, and then open your heart and see what you receive. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning. And those of you who may not know, this is Mari, and my name is Lorna, and we're really happy to be here with you this morning. I get to start with a joke, like Gangamata. There was a man who died and went to heaven. St. Peter, of course, greeted him at the gates and said, "This is how it works. You tell me all the good things you've done in your life, and I will tell you how many points they're worth. And if you get to 100 points, then I let you in." And the guy said, "Okay." So he starts with, "I went to church every Sunday." And St. Peter said, "That's really good. That's worth 2 points." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Let's see. I meditated every day for 25 years. And St. Peter said, "That is really wonderful. That's worth 3 points." Then the guy said, "Okay, let me see, what else? I opened a soup kitchen in my hometown. I served homeless veterans, and I took care of stray cats." And St. Peter said, "Really nice, really nice. 1 point." And then he said, okay, all right, there's more. Let's see. I was vegetarian. I never ate real sugar. And I had socially conscious bumper stickers on my car all the time. And St. Peter said, "Really good. You're doing good. I'll give you 2 more points." And he said, okay, one more thing. Let's see. I gave away my car to feed homeless children, and I rode my bike everywhere. And what else? And I knew Sanskrit names of like 100 yoga postures. And Peter said, "Wow, that's really impressive. 2 more points." And the guy finally said, "At this rate, the only way I'm going to get into heaven is by the grace of God." And St. Peter said, "Come on in." This idea of self-effort and grace is something that causes endless debate and laughter and discussion in all spiritual paths, I think, since the beginning of time, because it's such a delicate balance. Our mind wants to take us one way or the other. And as Yogananda would say also, that the Western mind wants either or. You know, in the Eastern way of thinking, it's much easier somehow to grasp both. You know, it's both. It's this and this. But our Western mind just says, wait a minute, now, you know, is it grace? Is it self-effort? And the truth is, it's both, you know. Yogananda had another formula. He didn't use a point system, but he had another formula that said 25%, the spiritual path is 25% our effort, the disciples' effort, 25% the effort of the guru on our behalf, and 50% is the grace of God. And it's such a beautiful whole, you know? It's like, okay, we're responsible for this 25%. Now, of course, being responsible for 25% of the whole doesn't mean we make 25% effort. We make 100% effort. We put everything we can into that piece that we're responsible for that self-effort. And this woman in the story, this Bible story this morning about her healing, she obviously did something right. There were hundreds of people pressing in on Jesus. And we don't know. There may have been other people that were healed that day as well, of course. But somehow this story has lasted through these ages as an example to us of what can happen when we put out the right spiritual effort. Somehow she managed to draw on that power that he just radiated. He didn't pick and choose. The story is that he was moving through the crowds and he felt the power being drawn from him. He didn't even know who it was exactly who was able to draw that power. She was able to have the right consciousness and be able to receive that and draw that power that he had to offer to everybody. And somehow her consciousness was in the right place. Because we know she didn't tackle everybody and move them out of the way and get to the head of the line and grab his robe. We know that if that was the attitude that she had, if it's the ego reaching out and saying, I want this, I'm going to get this, then it doesn't work that way either. And yet if she was too timid and didn't have the energy or the desire or the will to move through that crowd and which must have been quite a scene, if she hadn't had what it takes to get up there and have the faith, as he said, it was her faith that healed her, she didn't have that understanding within herself and that willingness to put herself forward and to actually reach up and get close enough to touch his robe, then that wouldn't have happened. And it's a story about healing, but it's also a story about just receiving God's grace. How do we draw on that power? How do we use our self-effort and our will to reach out and then receive? There's, in the purification service that we do before this service, we come forward and we say, I seek purification by the grace of God. And that's exactly that relationship. Is we're seeking, we have to step forward and ask. And then we also have to recognize, as in the reading, where that power comes from, where that engine of the universe is and where that power is that we're drawing on. And both have to happen at the same time. Swami Kriyananda, who's the founder of Ananda and a direct disciple of Yogananda, he's the one that wrote those interpretations that we read every week. He also said there had to be, it wasn't just a desire of reaching out and a need for healing and a recognition that it was God that would provide that. There also had to be an offering, that she actually gave something of herself on a soul level, that she actually was giving her love to Jesus in order for that to come back to her. There's a balance and a flow of divine love that happens that we don't always see, but that's there all the time. Yogananda said, think about this, Yogananda said, thinking upon God keeps the cosmos in balance and rhythm. When I ran across, isn't that an amazing thought? We thought it was recycling that keeps it all in rhythm. But no, thinking upon God keeps the cosmos, everything. Just thinking upon God keeps the cosmos in balance and in rhythm. There's the flow of love, a flow of divine energy, a flow of that grace that is happening all the time. And when we think upon God, now thinking upon God means more than, thinking about your grocery list so you don't forget. What you mean by thinking upon is putting our heart's energy in that direction. Just like that song we sang this morning, Living Water. is also refers back to another Bible story about a woman at the Samaritan woman at the well, and Jesus comes and blesses her, and there's an interaction there, and he refers to, he compares the water of the well, the material form of the water, and he says that he refers to God's grace and what comes through him as living water. And in the words of the song say, "Friend, only think of him and walk by his side." So when you, again, in that phrase, think of him, we're not talking about a mental exercise or an intellectual process that we go through. It's about putting our heart's energy and thinking of occupying our thoughts, our minds, our souls, everything we do with God's presence. If you think on him, if you think on that source, if you're always reaching toward and giving to that source, then there's this balance. The entire cosmos, he says, is in balance and in rhythm when we think on God, when we think on that Spirit. And we can, the tricky part is that we can go different ways with that. One is that we start getting into what is called a Vaishya consciousness. In Eastern teachings, talk about the different levels, the different stages we go through in our spiritual growth. And one is the Vaishya or merchant kind of consciousness, where we start realizing that if we put something out, we can get something back. And that's a necessary step on the spiritual path and in our development, because we have to learn to put out energy. We have to learn to put ourselves out, take the risk, and move energy and give to others to start that understanding of how that flow works. But the tricky part is getting into the merchant consciousness of, okay, God, I did my kriyas. So that means you can give something to me, or I work so hard, I serve all the time, I come to the temple, that consciousness, like in our joke this morning, where there's a point system, I do so much and I should get so much in return. The problem is with that is that our vision of things is so small. We don't see the whole picture like the masters do. We don't see our karma. We don't see other people's karma. We don't see the whole universal flow. We see our little world and our little flow that we have going on here. And it narrows down the possibilities when we start bargaining in that way. So we want to make sure not to go in that direction. And then the other direction is to be more passive. That if we think that, okay, well, I'm thinking about God, I've done my little bit, and now I'm waiting. Okay, just we sit and we wait, and we're more passive, which is why I asked you this morning before service started to enter into this service with energy and with an idea that you are giving service as well, that you're putting your energy into it and we're giving to each other. Because we all have a tendency, the ego says, let's relax, let's just sit back, let's slump down, and we have a tendency to get passive, which is also not the direction that we want to go. And as we talked, we also don't want to let the ego get in, be in charge and charge ahead and, to heck with anybody else and everything else that's going on. This is what I want. And that's also, it's also the wrong direction. What we want is that beautiful harmony and flow of giving God's love and receiving. I have a part-time job at Home Depot, and it's been quite fun. I've been there, I don't know, about a month or more, something like that. I'm still new. I still wear my I'm in training badge. Everybody keeps saying, Lorna, when are you going to take that off? I say, it's staying right here. I like my training badge. It's my excuse. So I hang on to that. But it's a real interesting place to be. I work in the garden department, so I'm outside and watering flowers and helping people all the time. It's a wonderful, energetic, if you want to get into a flow, man, it's a wonderful place to start feeling a flow. But yesterday it was interesting. There were two people that came in looking at plants, and indoor plants as it was, and it was an interesting study in human behavior. One woman came in saying that she wanted a new plant. She'd gotten a plant before, a while ago, weeks ago. She bought a plant, and it died. And it was really bothersome. And she had bought some kind of little hanging plant that we had in the house plant area. And so I started asking her, well, what happened? You know, did you water it? You know, she said, well, yes, I watered it. I said, did you take it out of the pot that you bought it in? Did you repot it? She kept saying, oh, the soil was real weird. It was real strange. It turned brown. It just died. It was awful. And I said, well, did you take it out of the pot that you bought it in and repot it and give it new soil? Well, no. I said, did you give it any, food? Did you give it any, plant food, I think, to give it? No. I said, did you look it up maybe on the internet and read about the plant and find out what it needed and what it? No. It just died. And I said, well, and then she's talking about getting another one, but it would be really expensive to get another one, I don't just, keep buying more plants. I said, yeah, well, that's probably not the way to go either. And so I tried to get her to understand that if she bought the plant, she needed to do something with it, It had this big sign, where the plants are to, what you're supposed to do, repot the plant, and give it nutrients and all of these things. But she just wasn't really interested. She just wanted something to, that she could have that would give her something without doing anything in return. And then after that, it was just really interesting. And then after that, another guy came in, this time a gentleman, very businesslike. He had a mission. He came in. He wanted a plant. And he wanted a plant for his office. He had an office space, and he said, I want a plant for my office. I want it next to my desk. Which plant should I get? And I said, and it runs through my mind. I think, why are you asking? I have a training button on asking me. But he's determined to get a plant. He's got this mission. He is not going to leave without a plant. But he has absolutely no idea what he wants, what is required. He doesn't want to really have any part of the process at all. He keeps asking me. And I'm saying, okay, well, you can look over here. Well, these are, he says, well, it's got to be kind of this big. It's going to go on the floor. It's going to be over here. And there's a window over here on this side of the office. And so which one? And I'm saying, well, read the labels that are on the little plant. You can read it and see whether it needs bright light, what it needs, how big it's going to get, it's going to be. And it kept trying to move him in the direction of making a decision. He didn't want to make a decision. He wanted me to pick out the plant and tell him which one and make sure that it was going to live and forever and, do a thing. And so I walked away from these two, and I thought, this is, and it's just human nature. It's just us. It's just the way we are. We have a tendency to not want to put out the energy. That's a phrase we use a lot at Ananda. It took me years to understand when I came to Ananda that they talked about putting out energy. And it's gotten to be sort of a catchphrase that sometimes we don't really pay attention to. We don't really understand what it is we're talking about. And it doesn't mean just be busy, just, do stuff, keep doing stuff all the time. It means that there has to be this flow of offering. That's why, did you catch it? That's why Swami paired this reading with the affirmation that she read about renunciation. Because there has to be this self-offering. That's what we mean by putting out energy. We don't self-offer schlumped like this. We have to self-offer with energy. And so there has to be this self-offering, and it has to come from within. That's the other thing about yoga and this path is it's always pointing us back inside. And it doesn't happen on an outer level. You can come in here to the temple. I've seen plenty. I worked here at the temple for years. Plenty of people come in and serve. Move chairs, do things. You know, Peter, I see people, let's get the coolers on again. I see people come in and serve. They put in time. They come, they do things, move chairs, help with the flowers, do different things. But there's a consciousness. Some people will come in and walk in the door and they're already in this self-offering mode. You can just feel this energy flowing out of them and giving. Just giving whatever it is that they have within them. And then there are other people come, move chairs, and can do things, but they get into a busy mode or they get into kind of a subconscious mode of thinking, doing other things, not really putting their consciousness here. They can do a whole lot of busy stuff and walk out the door again, and there really hasn't been self-offering at all. There really hasn't been that energy putting out. There's been movement, but there hasn't been an inner self-offering. And that's what it is that we are talking about when we talk about self-effort on the path. We have to bring it from inside and give it. And what we do is we move it up and we give it here in whatever form we can. The other wonderful thing to discover the more you do that is that it looks different with everybody. Yogananda said, every atom is dowered with individuality. Every atom is individual. Every person's path, every time we offer ourselves into that light, into that love, and give of ourselves, and then we receive, amazing things happen, and it's going to be amazing for each person in a unique way. Don't let anyone define for you what that looks like and what your offering is, and then what it should look like on the outside. Because this is between you and God. This is the relationship we have with our highest self within, with the gurus, with the masters, with Divine Mother, with whatever, how you define it. That's the relationship we have, and it doesn't look like anybody else's. And that's what's so amazing. So amazing about this path. And the more you give, the more you receive, and the more things come into balance. You can feel your life. Maybe you don't notice the entire cosmos coming into harmony and balance, but you can feel it in your life coming into balance and harmony. And that's how you know you're doing the right thing. If there's balance and harmony there, and there's beauty. It doesn't mean all the hard things go away. It doesn't mean all the challenges are gone. It doesn't mean God says, okay, you can only have easy karma. You know, it doesn't mean that. It means that there's balance and harmony, and you can feel it. Even in the midst of craziness, in the midst of really hard times, if that flow is happening, if that self-offering is there, and your heart is open to receive what it is that God is giving us all the time, there's beauty and harmony that you can feel. I want to share briefly this book, which right now is the only one we have in the boutique. It just came out. Eric Monroe is a devotee who lives down in Palo Alto. He's a longtime disciple. He's written this book. It's beautiful, Love Breathing. He gives simple exercises, wonderful, beautiful exercises for loving God, breathing in with every breath. And what struck me when I was looking at this the other day is just how much he talks about that flow, just with every breath. Love God with each breath in and then with each breath out. And that self-offering and that flow of divine grace just continues and gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And I just wanted to put a plug in. It's a wonderful, wonderful read. And it has beautiful practical ways to do that. And if you want one, talk to Melissa. She can get more for you. And I want to finish with a reading from Whispers from Eternity. This is Yogananda's book of prayer demands and poems. O Spirit, I care not if all sufferings come to me. or all things be taken away from me. I pray only that my love for thee never fade through my own negligence. May my love for thee burn brightly forever on the altar of my constant remembrance. God bless you.